We want to interrupt Red and Blue. I'm Lana. CBS News is projecting New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy will win re-election. He's the first Democratic incumbent governor to win re-election in the state since 1977. For more, let's bring in CBS News political reporter Adam Brewster. Adam, how close was this race?
This was very close, Lana. It's right now about a 22,000 vote margin, more vote still coming in. That margin and what's expected to still continue to come in is enough for CBS News to project that Governor Murphy will be the first Democratic incumbent governor to be reelected in more than 40 years in New Jersey. It was so close. I think some on the Murphy campaign were hoping that this moment may have happened about 24 hours ago instead of Wednesday night just before 9 o'clock.
How is the Ciattarelli campaign then responding?
They've said, there's still many votes out there to be counted. It's not the media's job to call races, and they're waiting for every vote to be counted. And that's certainly something that's common to hear from campaigns in these close races. Jack Ciattarelli, ran a very close race and, certainly outperformed many expectations in this. There was incredible Republican turnout in New Jersey, both in some of the counties along the New Jersey shore, in areas in South New Jersey. Republicans made big gains in the state legislature. It appears they may even defeat the state Senate president, the second most powerful politician in New Jersey politics, with a relatively unknown candidate. So there were a lot of gains from Republicans sort of riding Jack Ciattarelli's coattails. Governor Murphy got more votes than he did in 2017. By a small margin at this point. Jack Ciattarelli got more than 700,000 more votes than the Republican candidate did in 2017.
And Adam, as you say, Murphy's team had hoped that they were going to win by a large and significant margin early on. This is a better showing than many had predicted by the Republican candidate. And it also follows Republican businessman Glenn Youngkin's win over Terry McAuliffe in Virginia's gubernatorial race. What does that loss and this neck-and-neck win mean for President Joe Biden and the rest of the Democratic Party?
You heard a lot of Democrats on Capitol Hill today and the president say it's time for Democrats to take action and give their candidates something to talk about when they go out and run for re-election. That will certainly be a big issue in the midterms next year when federal candidates are on the ballot, right? When every U.S. House candidate who's running for re-election is on the ballot, when there are all those U.S. Senate races that are on the ballot, many Democratic, incumbents who are going to face tough re-election races. Some even, perhaps who felt good a few weeks ago are now looking at their races and saying, ooh, this could be a tough one. And so Democrats say, we have to pass our agenda to tell our voters that we have something to run on. But certainly Republicans are feeling very good about the political climate. The win in Virginia, it appeared close for the final few weeks. That was a state that President Biden won easily. But certainly how close things were in New Jersey, that is giving Republicans a lot of hope for how they may even be able to do, not just in battleground states, but in relatively blue states or blue districts next year. And they think they found some sort of issues, whether that's going after the economy or whether there's education issues that they can tap into and have a very successful 2022, much like they did in 2010, 2 years after former President Barack Obama won his first term.
And Adam, obviously both parties really are looking ahead to next year's midterms. What do the parties think that they need to do to score victories in congressional and gubernatorial races? Obviously, they're looking at this and trying to learn some lessons.
Right. Certainly there's lessons to be learned. The obvious caveat to start with is we don't know what the world will look like politically a year from now. And even just, probably 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, it was not many people who expected Republicans to win in Virginia and come this close in New Jersey. So political, standing can change very quickly. Democrats who I've talked to over the past week, in anticipation of a potential loss in Virginia and closer than expected results in New Jersey, said, our candidates have to talk about what they've done, what they've accomplished, and paint a vision for the future of what they want. That's especially going to be true for the gubernatorial candidates. it's not clear if, what role COVID may play in elections a year from now. Even down the stretch in New Jersey and Virginia, it sort of faded away into, third and fourth most important issue for voters. Now, there may have been many Republicans going out there and voting against some of the mask or vaccine mandates, or still some anger over business closures. I heard about that from some voters in New Jersey when I was talking to folks outside of polling places yesterday. But for Republicans, it's going to be a matter of what kind of candidates emerge from their primaries and what role the former president will play in those races. Certainly, there's Republicans saying, hey, in blue states, we can find candidates who know how to talk to these independent voters, these suburban voters who we had a hard time with during the Trump era. That's sort of what Glenn Youngkin and Jack Ciattarelli were able to do. But they also didn't go and poke the former president's base in the eye, is something that a lot of Republicans said. People who were looking at these races, Republicans who were watching or involved with these races, saying that's sort of a model that may work and maybe, Republicans can recreate going forward. A lot of that will depend on what comes out of those key primary elections that will take place, in the coming months, in the first half and first several months of 2022. But, they also feel good about running on the economy, running, in opposition to President Biden and his agenda. Certainly the education issue is something that Republicans are feeling good about. Some Democrats I talked to said, hey, that's an issue where we think we can regain control and maybe reframe it over the course of the next year. There will be a lot of hand-wringing over these two races, but ultimately, these Senate races will take place in a bit of a national picture. Sometimes governor's races can be a bit insulated, but in those midterm years where there's Senate and governor races running hand in hand, oftentimes you see the parties rise and fall together.
All right. Adam Brewster, thank you.
Thanks, Lana.